They say time heals everything. But what if time never existed in the first place? What if the very thing you've been waiting for, healing, transformation, your new life, isn't hidden in some far-off future, but is already happening right now in a parallel frequency that you simply haven't tuned into yet? Imagine a man standing in a hallway of mirrors, each reflecting a different version of himself. Some show him broken, trapped in regret. Others reveal a powerful, awakened version, already living the life he dreams of. He keeps walking, thinking he's moving through time. Yet every version of himself already exists in those mirrors. The only thing changing is which one he looks at. This isn't philosophy. This is quantum mechanics. We've been told that time is linear, a straight arrow from past to future with now as the fleeting point in between. But what if that arrow is just a convenient illusion, a simplified map drawn by the limited perception of a human mind wired for survival, not for truth? The brain, after all, doesn't experience time. It only stores sequences of electrical patterns. Your past just a recording. Your future, an unplayed track on a cosmic playlist. The Newtonian model of time, fixed, measurable, constant, collapses the moment you look closer. Einstein already whispered this over a century ago when he revealed that time is relative. Not a constant force, but a flexible variable that bends with speed, gravity, and observation. But here's the part they never taught you in school. The deeper you go into the quantum field, the more time begins to dissolve altogether. In the quantum realm, particles don't move through time. They exist in states of potentiality, suspended in a timeless soup of probability. The moment we observe them, the moment we give them attention, they collapse into one defined state. In other words, time doesn't flow. It collapses with your focus. What you call now is just the point of consciousness that intersects with a particular frequency of potential. But that's not the shocking part. The real twist is this. Every version of you, the one who succeeded, the one who failed, the one who's already free, already exists, not metaphorically, not as imagination, but as real tangible timelines encoded in the quantum field. Your identity, your emotions, your beliefs. These are the tuning forks that select which timeline you experience. You're not creating reality in time. You're selecting reality through vibration. Still the clock ticks. Still your calendar fills. Still your body ages. So how can time not exist if we live inside it? That's the puzzle that traps most minds. But here's the loophole. Time is real inside a specific frequency, like a video game with levels. Each timeline has its own physics, its own rules. But when you shift your consciousness out of one timeline into another, when you jump vibrationally, the rules change. Time bends, memory scrambles, the past rewrites itself, and the future starts leaking into your present. If that sounds impossible, it's only because you've been taught to think of yourself as a fixed object moving through a fixed world. You've forgotten that your mind, your energy, your awareness, these are non-local. They're not trapped in meat and bone. They are quantum instruments capable of collapsing infinite realities into experience. Your body is the avatar. Your consciousness is the player. And time is the illusion that makes the game feel real. Let's go deeper. Every time you recall a memory, you're not looking at a static file in your brain. You're recreating the memory, reactivating the neural network, re-experiencing the emotional charge. In doing so, you're energetically aligning with the version of yourself who lived that past. That's why your past keeps repeating. Not because it's destiny, but because your focus is collapsing the same timeline again and again. The key is this. Your perception of time is a mirror of your emotional state. When you're stuck in guilt or regret, time slows down. The future seems far away, unreachable. But when you're in coherence, when your heart, mind, and body are aligned in a state of presence, time dissolves. Hours feel like moments. You access flow, and from that flow, you can leap into other timelines effortlessly. Here's the paradox no one talks about. To change your future, you must first change the past, not by rewriting history, but by shifting your vibrational relationship to it. Because as long as your identity is entangled with the old version of yourself, the one who was hurt, abandoned, rejected, you keep tuning into the same outcome. But the moment you step into a new emotional frequency, your observer effect collapses a new slice of reality. And in that moment, the past itself reshapes. Not in your memory, in your field. Now you might be thinking, but I remember what happened. It's real. Sure, but what if that memory only feels solid because you've been feeding it with attention? What if your proof is just your neurological repetition creating a loop so convincing you forgot it's optional? What if healing isn't about fixing the past but choosing a new one? This isn't wishful thinking. It's quantum coherence. It's how light behaves as both particle and wave until you observe it. It's how entangled particles affect each other across time and space. It's how your consciousness, when elevated beyond linear perception, becomes the architect of time itself. The real question is not can I escape time, but which version of time am I collapsing right now? Because time is not outside you. It's not a river you float on. It's a field you project. You are the projector, the film, and the screen. And every thought, every emotion, every belief is choosing which reel of reality to play. And here's the piece you're still missing, but we'll explore that next. The quantum field doesn't see time the way you do. In fact, from its perspective, time is already over, and everything you've ever desired already encoded in a frame that's waiting for your frequency. But more on that in a moment. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You are floating in space far beyond Earth, outside the gravitational pull of any planet, any star. There are no clocks, no sunsets, no ticking of your watch. There is no yesterday or tomorrow. Only stillness, only now, but not the now you're used to. This is a vast, multi-dimensional present alive with infinite potential, where all outcomes already exist. This is not science fiction. This is the quantum field. In our everyday life, we think of time as linear, because we live in a brain that processes sequences. The sun rises. We eat, we sleep. The past feels like a story written in stone, the future like a distant hope. But this perception isn't a universal truth. It's just the way the human nervous system organizes information to survive. In the quantum field, time is not a line. It's a landscape. Everything happens at once. Every potential outcome, every version of you, every twist in your story already exists simultaneously in a superposition of possibilities. Let's go deeper. The quantum field, as understood by physicists like John Wheeler and David Bowe, isn't just a sea of particles. It's a unified field of intelligent potential, a realm beyond space and time where the past and future are not fixed points, but accessible coordinates of frequency. In this field, nothing is solid until it's observed. The act of observation, or more precisely, conscious awareness, is what collapses this infinite soup of potential into a tangible reality, which means that the future isn't coming, it's waiting. And the past isn't gone, it's still vibrating in the field right beside you. Einstein called it the illusion of time. He said that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. What he meant is that from the perspective of the universe, time doesn't move. Everything simply is. It's only when you step into a body, into a brain, into identity that time begins to appear. Think of it like this. Your consciousness is like a flashlight and time is the beam. Wherever you point your focus, a slice of reality lights up. But that doesn't mean the other slices are gone. They're just not currently illuminated. The double-slit experiment proved something hauntingly powerful. A particle behaves like a wave, like a field of pure probability until it is measured. The moment you observe it, it chooses a location, a moment, a state. But here's what most people don't realize. The act of observation doesn't just affect the present. It reaches into the past. Retrocausality, a phenomenon proven in quantum delayed choice experiments, shows that a decision made in the present can influence how a particle behaved in the past. Let that sink in. Your current state of consciousness can reshape what already happened, not just how you remember it, but what it was. So what does this mean for you? It means you are not moving through time. You are selecting frames from a quantum archive like a film reel with every possible version of your life already printed. Love, heartbreak, abundance, failure, awakening, stagnation. You are the projector choosing which frame to light up with your awareness. And here's the key. You don't need to wait for time to bring you what you desire. You need to match the frequency of the version of you who already has it. This is where science meets the soul. Because matching a frequency isn't a mental game, it's a vibrational shift. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and energetic coherence are the tuning dial. When your heart and brain are in sync, a state neuroscientists call coherence, you become a clear signal in the field. And the field responds by reflecting the timeline that matches that frequency. Neville Goddard spoke of this timeless truth when he said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." Because in the quantum field, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are, not in personality but in frequency. If you feel lack, you align with timelines of more lack. If you feel peace, you resonate with realities where peace already rules your life. This isn't magic, this is mechanics. Let's talk about your brain. The neocortex, which processes logic and language, is time-bound. But the limbic brain, the emotional center, doesn't know the difference between past, present, or future. When you feel gratitude now for a future that hasn't happened yet, your brain doesn't wait to validate it. It collapses the experience into your nervous system, changing your biology, your chemistry, your electromagnetic field. This is why gratitude is so powerful in manifestation. It tricks your system into believing the future is now, and the field responds accordingly. You might be wondering, if all timelines already exist, why am I stuck in this one? The answer is simple but confronting. You've been unconsciously choosing it through your attention, your beliefs, your unresolved emotions. You've been collapsing the same version of reality over and over, thinking it was fate. But now you know the truth. You can step back, widen the lens, and begin to collapse a different outcome. This is not about escaping your current life. It's about stepping into the greater reality that's already surrounding you. The quantum field is not out there. It is here now, pulsing beneath your skin, responding to your every thought. Time in this field is not a conveyor belt. It's a vibrational access point, and you hold the code. But before you can access new futures, you must unhook from the emotional anchors of your past. You must interrupt the patterns that keep your attention bound to the familiar. You must become aware of what you're observing and why. Because every observation is a choice, every thought is a key, and every emotion is a signal to the field. Now you're beginning to see the future is not something you wait for. It's something you tune into. And the timeline where everything you desire is already real. It's not far away. It's just vibrating at a frequency you haven't fully remembered yet. But that memory is starting to return. And in the next chapter, we'll show you how to collapse the version of your past that's been anchoring you in limitation, and how to tune your being to the version of reality that already knows your power. There's a version of you that is already healed, a version that already lives in flow, in abundance, and deep peace. They're not in your distant future. They're not just a dream. They are real right now, vibrating in a parallel timeline. And the only thing separating you from them is the signal you're sending to the field. This is not about fantasizing. This is about physics. Quantum jumping or timeline shifting is not some metaphysical gimmick. It is the direct result of understanding how your consciousness interacts with the field of infinite potential, your identity, beliefs, emotions, and thoughts. These are not internal decorations. They are levers, and the field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you broadcast. Let's dismantle a popular illusion. Most people believe they need to change the world outside in order to live a better life. They try to fix, chase, or rearrange the external jobs, relationships, money, hoping that something out there will unlock a new path. But that's backward, because in quantum terms, the outer world is not the cause. It is the effect. Your reality is not happening to you. It's collapsing from you. Think of your current life as a frequency pattern, a playlist of experiences you're constantly tuning into. If you keep broadcasting the same emotional signature, resentment, fear, doubt, you keep collapsing the same stations, even if you visualize something better. If your underlying frequency is rooted in the past, the field will only echo that back to you. That's why change feels hard. That's why life seems stuck. But here's the breakthrough. You don't need to wait for change. You don't need to force it. You can jump right now into a timeline where the version of you who already embodies your desire exists. And to do that, you must collapse the vibrational past that's been holding your identity hostage. Let's make it practical. The brain doesn't store time. It stores patterns, neurological circuits linked to emotions. Every time you recall a painful memory, you're not revisiting a neutral file. You're re-experiencing the frequency of that version of you. You are emotionally entangled with a timeline. That means the past you keep replaying isn't just haunting you, it's anchoring your current vibration. So how do you collapse it? First, you stop feeding it. Awareness is the key. When you become the observer of your emotional triggers instead of reacting, you begin to disentangle from that version of you. Your nervous system, once addicted to the familiar chemistry of stress or guilt, begins to lose its grip. That's neuroplasticity. That's quantum liberation. Next, you embody the version of you who no longer carries that pain. Not intellectually, energetically. You sit with your body. You breathe into your chest. You ask, how would I feel if that version of me no longer defined me? Then you practice that feeling. Not once, not for a minute, but repeatedly, consistently, until your biology begins to match that frequency. The more time you spend in the state of the new you, the more the old timeline begins to collapse, because you're no longer giving it life through your observation. This is why healing is never about fixing the past. It's about no longer being the version of you who was shaped by it. Because in the quantum field, What you stop observing ceases to exist, and what you begin to embody becomes your reality. Here's where it gets beautiful. You can create micro jumps every day. Every time you choose peace over panic, clarity over confusion, presence over the old pattern, you are collapsing an old version of yourself and stepping into a new one. That's a jump, and over time those jumps compound. The frequency gap between where you were and where you are expands so dramatically it feels like a different life. Because it is. Joe Dispenza says to change is to think greater than your environment. But even deeper than thinking to jump timelines, you must feel greater than your history. Because feeling is the language of the field. Thought is the map, but feeling is the engine. And when your feeling body aligns with the signal of your future self, the quantum GPS recalibrates instantly. Neville Goddard called this living in the end. He didn't mean to fantasize about your dream life. He meant to embody the emotional frequency of it, as if it were already true, because in the field it already is. The moment you act as if you are already that version, not through delusion but through deep coherence, you collapse into that timeline. Reality doesn't wait, it mirrors. But don't confuse action with force. This isn't about doing more, it's about being differently. Your job is not to chase the new timeline. Your job is to match it. The timeline is magnetic. It draws to you what you are. And when you stop performing the past, you unlock access to realities your old identity could never perceive. Now here's the subtle trap. The old timeline will try to pull you back. Not because it's evil, but because it's familiar. Your nervous system may crave the old chaos. Your ego may fear losing its story. That's why jumping timelines requires awareness, not perfection. You will feel discomfort. That's a sign you're leaving a vibrational cage. Honor it, don't resist it. Breathe through it. Your new self is on the other side of that resistance. So ask yourself, who am I ready to stop being? Which emotional habits, thought patterns, stories am I willing to release, not by force but by choosing a higher signal? Because the field is listening. It always has been. It's just been playing the song you've been broadcasting whether you knew it or not. And the song of your future self, it's already playing in the background. Subtle, magnetic, waiting for you to sing along. But to hear it fully, you need to become still enough to tune in. And in the next chapter, you'll discover how your attention, your most powerful, underestimated gift, is the remote control that governs which version of time you collapse into your now. And once you understand that, everything changes. There's a reason your life keeps looping, a reason why the same patterns, emotions, and outcomes seem to find their way back into your experience. No matter how hard you try to break free, it's not karma, it's not bad luck. It's the mechanics of observation, and it's more powerful than you've ever been told. In quantum mechanics, there's a principle that shatters everything we think we know about reality. The observer effect. Particles exist in a superposition, a state of infinite potential until they are observed. The moment observation happens, the wave collapses into a specific outcome, not before, not after. The act of attention creates the event. Now imagine that your thoughts, emotions, and expectations are acts of constant observation. That means you're not just witnessing your reality, you're selecting it. Your attention is not passive, it is creative. It is the light that collapses timelines into form, and the field, that quantum sea of pure potential, is neutral. It doesn't judge. It doesn't correct. It simply reflects the quality of your focus. So if you focus on lack, you collapse lack. If you focus on being stuck, you collapse more of the stuckness. And if you dare to focus on the reality you want with emotional truth and coherence, the field has no choice but to organize around it. Let's ground this in the human experience. Most people live in a trance of repetition, not because they lack power, but because their attention is hijacked. Traumas from the past, projections into the future, constant distraction all fragment the power of the observer. Their energy is scattered, their presence diluted, and so life becomes a mirror of confusion, chaos, or numbness. But the truth is, your attention is the remote control of time. Wherever you aim it, the timeline responds. This is not metaphor, this is field dynamics. Each thought, especially when charged with emotion, sends a measurable signal into the quantum field. The brain emits electrical patterns, the heart emits magnetic waves. Together they form a broadcast, and that broadcast instructs the field on what to collapse into your experience. This is why being stuck in the past feels so heavy. It's not that the past is real. It's that you've been feeding it with constant observation. Every time you tell the same story, feel the same regret, or relive the same pain, you're not remembering. You're re-ooing that timeline, and the field listens. It always does. But here's the quantum shift. Once you redirect your attention with intention, the entire field reorients, not gradually, instantly. Not because you forced change, but because you tuned your awareness to a different frame of possibility. Imagine your attention as a laser pointer. 1,000 doors stand before you. You've been unconsciously pointing at door number 4, the one marked lack, stagnation, or confusion. But now you stop. You become still. You feel your breath. You reconnect to the observer, not the identity, but the witness behind the thoughts. And you point the beam toward door number 7, the timeline where you are already free, grounded, powerful, and as your attention locks in, the door opens. But here's the part most people miss. Focus without emotional energy is weak. You can mentally say, I want to be free. But if your emotional body is still vibrating fear, you're sending a scrambled signal. The field responds to coherence, alignment between thought and feeling. That's why mindfulness alone isn't enough. You must feel your focus. You must become the observer with heart. Neuroscience backs this. Studies on heart-brain coherence show that when your emotional and mental systems sync, your body enters a state of biological alignment. In that state, you become a powerful transmitter. Intuition sharpens. Stress dissolves. You become energetically magnetic, and the field, which is always scanning for signals, mirrors back the timeline that matches this elevated state. This is why ancient mystics and modern scientists are finally saying the same thing. Presence is power, not just spiritual presence, intentional awareness. When you become conscious of where your attention goes, you reclaim the ability to shift timelines. You stop reacting and you begin selecting. But here's a subtle truth. Reclaiming your attention isn't just about focus. It's about sovereignty. Because when your attention is yours again, not hijacked by fear, distraction, or pain, you become untouchable. You stop collapsing timelines from wounded autopilot and begin collapsing them from soul alignment. The question isn't whether you're creating your reality. You already are. The real question is, from what level of consciousness are you creating it? Because if you observe from fear, you collapse limitation. But if you observe from love, from clarity, from embodied worth, the field opens like a flower, blooming with timelines you didn't even know were possible. That's not magic. That's mechanics. So take a breath right now, slow down. Feel the weight of your focus. Ask yourself, what timeline am I feeding with my attention today? Because that choice, while that micro moment of awareness, is more powerful than months of struggle. And if you're ready to collapse the version of time where you're stuck, repeating, waiting, type in the comments, my attention commands the timeline. Let that be your first signal to the field, a declaration that you are no longer collapsing your reality from autopilot. You are here awake, observing with intention. And in the next chapter, we'll go even deeper. Because once you understand the mechanics of observation, the only thing left is to fully embody the version of you who's already living in the timeline you desire. And the moment you do, your world will shift. There is a reason you can see your desired future so clearly. The life you crave and the peace, the abundance, the freedom isn't a fantasy. It's a memory from the field, a vibrational echo from a version of you that already exists. Not someday. Now, you don't imagine your highest self. You remember them. But here's the paradox. That version of you isn't something you become over time. It's something you embody now, or you never experience it at all. Because in the quantum field, time doesn't bring change. Frequency does. And your frequency is not an abstract vibration floating in space. It is a state of being, a combination of your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, body chemistry, and energetic posture, which means you are either broadcasting the signal of your future self, or you're tuning into a past loop. There is no neutral. Let's ground this in science. Every emotion you feel creates a chemical cascade in the body. Cortisol, when you feel stressed; oxytocin when you feel loved; adrenaline when you feel threatened. These chemicals aren't random. They are messengers. They carry signals that reinforce specific neural pathways. And over time, those pathways become personality traits, identities, and eventually your reality. If every day you wake up and feel the same lack, dread, or anxiety, you're not just having a bad morning. You are unconsciously broadcasting the same identity, telling the quantum field, this is who I am. And the field, ever precise, mirrors back the timeline that matches. This is not punishment, it's precision. But when you choose to interrupt the chemical habit, when you wake up and breathe like someone who's already free, move like someone who trusts the unfolding, think like someone who already has, the signal changes, your biology reprograms, your electromagnetic field shifts, You become a new vibrational node in the quantum matrix. Neville Goddard said, "You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." Because the field responds not to begging, not to effort, but to embodied certainty. Not mental affirmation, but emotional alignment. Here's the truth most people don't want to face. As long as you keep waiting to feel different after something changes, you are stuck in a linear trap, a trap of cause and effect. But in the quantum paradigm, it's inverted. You must feel it before you see it. You must become the cause. Your embodiment is the signal that bends reality. Let's make it tangible. You want abundance. Stop trying to get it. Embody the version of you who already lives from overflow. How do they walk, speak, breathe? What choices do they make? What do they no longer tolerate? You want deep love? Don't chase it. Embody the version of you who is already held, already whole. What boundaries do they set? What energy do they radiate without effort? You want to lead, create, expand, then step into the timeline where you already are that creator. Not by pretending, by remembering. Because the field doesn't require proof. It requires coherence. This is not delusion. This is neurological programming. When you act as if long enough, your brain begins to rewire. Your body begins to believe. Your energy begins to stabilize. The subconscious, which governs 95% of your behavior, starts obeying new instructions. And then the field reflects that new frequency with shocking precision. But here's the nuance. Embodiment isn't a performance. It's not about faking it. It's about collapsing the gap between who you've been and who you truly are. It's a surrender to the truth already encoded in your soul. That's why embodiment is powerful. It bypasses the mind and activates the memory of your future stored in your heart. Joe Dispenza teaches that when your brain and heart are in sync, your body becomes the magnet. In that state of coherence, you don't chase outcomes. You attract them effortlessly. You're not forcing life. You're flowing with a field that recognizes you because you're finally broadcasting a clear, stable signal. But embodiment is uncomfortable at first. Why? Because the old self will resist. It will whisper doubts. It will tempt you back into the familiar. Not because it's evil, but because it's scared. Your nervous system is addicted to the known, even if the known is pain. This is why embodiment is not a one-time decision. It's a practice, a moment-to-moment devotion. Every time you feel the fear and choose faith. Every time you notice the pattern and choose presence. Every time you collapse into the now instead of waiting for later, you quantum jump. You step into the timeline where your future is no longer an aspiration. It's an activation. And here's what no one tells you. Your embodiment doesn't just shift your life. It shifts the collective field. Every time you choose coherence, you make it easier for others to do the same. You emit a signal into the morphogenetic field, a blueprint of possibility that others can tune into. Your embodiment becomes a portal, and that is the invitation of this moment. Not to keep waiting, wishing, doubting, but to start living now as if the reality you long for has already arrived, because it has. It's waiting in the field, waiting for a frequency match, waiting for you. And in the final chapter, we'll take this to its full conclusion. Because if time is not linear, if timelines are real and collapsible, if embodiment is your superpower, then what does that mean for the way you live, create, and serve from here? The answer may surprise you. There is a moment, subtle, powerful, irreversible, when a human stops living in time and begins living as frequency. It's the moment you no longer ask, "When will my future come?" and instead declare, "I am already living it." It's the moment when linear time dissolves and you awaken as a conscious participant in a multi-dimensional reality that's been waiting for you all along. That moment is now. You've seen the illusion for what it is. You've pulled back the curtain on the theater of time, the idea that past and future are separate, that change takes effort, that you are bound by a timeline you didn't choose. But the truth has been whispering all along. Time is not a road, it is a mirror. And when you shift internally, reality must follow. You are not running toward your future anymore. You are becoming the version of you who remembers how to collapse it into the now, and you are not alone. There is a global shift happening not in governments or technologies, but in consciousness itself. Individuals all over the world are waking up from the trance of linear time and stepping into the field as creators, not victims. They are no longer asking for permission to change. They are observing new timelines, embodying new frequencies, and watching their realities transform from the inside out. This is not a fantasy. This is a movement of quantum beings, people like you, who are remembering that their attention, their embodiment, and their emotion are the levers of creation, who are realizing that healing isn't a process through time, It's a shift in identification, that the future is not a goal to reach but a state to tune into, and that time is not the ruler of reality, it is its servant. Now let's anchor this truth into your body. Take a deep breath in, close your eyes, feel your feet on the floor, the gravity, the weight, the presence. Now ask yourself without hesitation, what version of me already lives the life I desire? Feel them, see their posture, hear their thoughts, sense their frequency. Now breathe them into your body. Not with force, with surrender. Inhale their knowing. Exhale your resistance. Again and again. With each breath, the space between you and them dissolves until there is no separation, because there never was only a tension separating you from the frequency already encoded in your field. This is the essence of timeline shifting, not time travel, not escape, but integration of the future you into the present body. And as you rise from this moment, you are different subtly, completely. You have collapsed the idea of one day and stepped into the vibration of now. From this place, all choices shift. You don't ask, what should I do? You ask, what does this version of me already choose? And when you align your actions with that answer, the field responds with stunning precision. Because now you are not forcing reality. You are flowing with a higher harmonic of yourself. And if you felt something stir within you through this journey, a remembering, a clarity, a quiet surge of power, it's because your future self has been guiding this entire process. They are not far from you. They are through you, whispering, nudging, waiting. And if you've made it here, it's because something inside you already knows. You are not a linear being. You are not chasing time. You are collapsing timelines through presence, through power, through precision. And the real shift begins the moment you stop asking when and start embodying who. This is your time not to wait, but to remember. And we're here with you in the field now and always.